Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're going to be looking at the future of work,
Okay.
and really kind of focusing in on how things like AI and digitalization and the green economy are all kind of coming together
Yeah,
to change the landscape, especially in Malaysia.
absolutely.
You've given us a ton of great research from organizations like the World Economic Forum and the UN,
Uh-huh.
some really interesting case studies from places like Norway and Singapore.
Good.
So
Looking forward to diving in.
yeah, our
Yeah.
goal is to help you understand not just how to kind of survive all this change,
Right.
but how to thrive.
It's a crucial time to be thinking about this stuff. And I think what's really exciting is we're not just dealing with these theoretical concepts anymore, right?
Yep.
We're seeing these shifts play out in real time across the globe.
Absolutely. So let's jump right into Malaysia.
Okay.
One of the first things that kind of caught my eye was this statistic about 620,000 jobs potentially being at risk in the next 3 to 5 years. We're talking major sectors like wholesale and retail and the food industry, which together represent a massive portion of Malaysia's GDP.
Yeah, that number really highlights the urgency of adapting to these forces, right? These technological and economic forces that are reshaping the labor market. But I think instead of getting too bogged down by, the idea of job losses, I think it's important to look at the specific skills within those sectors that are becoming less relevant. So, for example, in retail, tasks like inventory management or cashier roles, those are increasingly being automated.
So it's not necessarily entire professions disappearing, it's
Mhm.
certain tasks within those jobs becoming obsolete.
Exactly. Which means it's crucial for people in those sectors to start thinking about, okay, what new skills do I need to acquire that are going to be in high demand?
Hmm.
So, for example, in retail, skills related to e-commerce, digital marketing, customer experience management, those are becoming increasingly valuable.
That makes a lot of sense. And it sounds like the Malaysian government is taking this seriously with their Myanmar initiative, investing 3 billion ringgit in upskilling and reskilling programs.
Yeah, it's a good start.
Yeah.
I think the question is it enough to address the scale of the challenge?
Hmm.
3 billion ringgit is significant, but it needs to be targeted effectively to ensure that people are gaining the specific skills that employers are actually looking for. Otherwise, you risk creating a situation where you have a workforce that's been trained, but not necessarily for the jobs that are actually available.
That's a really good point. It's not just about providing training, it's about making sure that training aligns with
Yeah,
the needs of the evolving job market.
exactly.
So, for someone in Malaysia who's hearing this, what would you say are some concrete steps they can take to prepare themselves for these shifts?
I think the first step is to be proactive, right? Don't wait for things to change around you. Start exploring, those emerging fields that we talked about. So AI, sustainability, those are big ones. But there's also areas like biotechnology, the digital economy that are experiencing rapid growth.
We hear a lot about the need for AI engineers, but what does that actually entail? What kind of skills are we talking about?
Yeah, it's a broad field, but, some of the key skills include machine learning, deep learning, natural language processing, computer vision. Those are really the building blocks of AI systems. And there's a huge demand for people who can develop, implement, and manage those technologies.
So, for someone who's maybe working in a more traditional field, is it realistic to think they could make a transition into something like AI?
Absolutely. It's definitely possible, but it does require a commitment to, learning and development. There's fantastic online resources available, Coursera, ADX, they offer courses and certifications in these areas. There's boot camps and other intensive programs that can help people acquire those skills quickly.
It's encouraging to know that these opportunities exist even for people who may not have a traditional tech background. Now, we focused a lot on Malaysia so far, but let's zoom out a bit
Sure.
and look at the global landscape.
Okay.
One of the things that really struck me from the materials you provided was the rapid growth of the green economy.
Yeah,
It's clearly not just a local phenomenon.
absolutely. This shift towards a more sustainable and environmentally friendly economy is happening worldwide. And it's not just driven by altruism, right? There's a growing recognition that going green can actually be incredibly profitable.
I was particularly fascinated by the story of Lancaster, California.
Uh,
The city of 175,000 people basically became a pioneer in renewable energy, and it started with a really simple idea, putting solar panels on all their municipal buildings.
yeah, what's remarkable about Lancaster's story is that their mayor, Rex Paris, didn't even initially approach it from an environmental perspective. His main concern was reducing the city's energy costs, and what he found was that going green wasn't just good for the planet, it was incredibly beneficial for their budget. They saved so much money on energy that they were able to invest in other community projects.
It's a brilliant example of how economic considerations and environmental sustainability can actually go
Yeah.
hand in
They're
hand.
not mutually exclusive.
And then there's Oslo aiming for zero CO2 emissions by 2030.
Ambitious.
They're going all in on electric vehicles, sustainable construction, reducing waste, and even creating an international green power grid with their neighbors.
Oslo's approach really highlights the importance of collaboration in achieving these ambitious goals.
Mm.
They recognize that they can't do it alone, so they're working with other countries to create a more sustainable energy infrastructure for the entire region.
It's a great example of how international cooperation can lead to real progress
Yeah.
on global issues like climate change.
Absolutely. And it also challenges this notion that going green is somehow a luxury that only wealthy countries can afford. Norway is certainly a developed nation, but their success with renewable energy shows that it's a viable path for countries at all levels of development.
This brings us to another source you shared, the case for a green economy, which really dives into the potential of solar energy.
Yeah.
There's this clear sense that solar could be a game changer.
It has the potential.
But the report also acknowledges some barriers to wider adoption.
Yeah, the study found that while a majority of people believe in the benefits of solar energy, they're often held back by concerns about, high upfront costs and a lack of clear information about the technology.
The report highlights Australia's approach to solar as a really interesting case study.
Mm.
They've made some significant strides in making solar more accessible and affordable.
Absolutely. They took kind of a two-pronged approach. So firstly, they streamlined the permitting process for installing solar panels, making it much easier and faster for homeowners to go solar. And secondly, they invested in training dedicated solar inspectors, which helped to address concerns about the quality and safety of installations.
And those changes had a real impact, right?
They did, by removing those bureaucratic hurdles and addressing those concerns, they made solar a much more attractive option for homeowners, and as a result, Australia has seen a dramatic increase in the adoption of solar energy in recent years.
It's a great example of how government policies and regulations can play a crucial role in shaping
Right.
the adoption of green technologies.
It's not just about individual choices, it's
Yeah.
about creating an environment that makes those choices easier and more affordable.
And one of the key takeaways from the Australian example is the importance of making information about solar energy more accessible.
Right.
They created a user-friendly website, energymatters.com.au, which provides clear and concise information about solar technology installation costs, government incentives.
It's about empowering people with the knowledge they need to make informed decisions. And that's something that applies to the future of work as a whole.
This is a great place to pause for now.
Uh-huh.
We've covered a lot of ground,
We have.
but we've only just scratched the surface of this fascinating topic.
Yeah, there's more to come.
We'll be back in a moment to dive deeper into the strategies and skills that individuals can develop to thrive in this new world of work.
Welcome back to the Deep Dive. We were just talking about Australia's really interesting approach to solar energy,
Yeah.
making it more affordable and accessible for folks. And it really shows how government policies can really make a difference in these big transitions.
It's a powerful example, and I think it speaks to a broader point. The future of work isn't just about individual actions. It's also about creating systems that support and accelerate those positive changes.
Right. It's not just about, upskilling. It's about having the right infrastructure and policies in place to
Exactly.
facilitate that transition.
But let's bring it back to the individual level for a moment.
Right.
We've talked about some pretty big shifts happening, and I imagine it can feel, a bit overwhelming for someone who's maybe in a job that's, feeling the pressure of these changes.
Yeah.
What advice would you give them?
I think it's important to remember that these transitions, they don't happen overnight, right?
Right.
It's not like one day your job is here and the next day it's gone. It's a gradual process. And that means you have time to adapt and prepare.
That's such a crucial point. I think it's easy to get caught up in the headlines about, robots taking over jobs and all of that. But the reality is much more nuanced often. It's about, certain tasks within a job becoming automated, which means there's an opportunity to upskill, right?
Yeah.
And take on those higher level responsibilities that require human creativity and problem solving.
So it's not necessarily about learning a completely new profession. It's more about enhancing the skills you already have. And adding new ones that are relevant to this evolving landscape.
Yeah.
And one of the most valuable skills I think you can develop in this context is adaptability.
Mm-hmm.
The world of work is changing faster than ever before.
Yeah.
So the ability to learn new things quickly and pivot to new opportunities is going to be essential.
And that brings us back to the idea of lifelong learning, which we touched on earlier.
Right.
It's no longer enough to just get a degree and then coast on that knowledge for the rest of your career.
Right. It's about cultivating this mindset of continuous learning and development. And that doesn't necessarily mean, going back to university or getting another degree.
Right.
There's so many resources available online, through community colleges and even within companies themselves. A lot of companies now offer, training and development programs for their employees.
I'm curious, from your perspective, what are some of the most in-demand skills that you see people should be focusing on? We've talked about AI and sustainability, but are there other areas that you see as being particularly important?
One area that I think is often overlooked is data analysis. We're living in a world that's increasingly driven by data. And the ability to collect, analyze, and interpret that data is becoming incredibly valuable across a wide range of industries.
So even if you're not working in, a tech-heavy field,
Yeah,
having some basic understanding of data analysis can be...
absolutely.
And it's not just about, crunching numbers. It's about being able to tell a story with data, to extract insights that can inform decision-making and drive innovation.
The sources you gave me also talked a lot about these transferable skills,
Uh-huh.
those abilities that can be applied across different roles and industries.
Yeah.
What are some examples of those and how can people develop them?
Yeah, transferable skills are really the foundation of a, resilient and adaptable workforce.
Hmm.
These are things like communication, critical thinking, problem-solving, collaboration.
And the great thing about them is that you can develop them in a variety of ways. So through volunteering, taking on leadership roles in community organizations, or even just by being mindful of how you approach challenges in your everyday life.
It's about recognizing those skills that you're already using in different areas of your life
Yeah.
and thinking about how you can apply them in a professional context.
And don't underestimate the power of networking and building relationships.
Okay.
Talking to people in different fields, attending industry events, even just having coffee with someone who has a job that you're interested in can provide invaluable insights and open up new possibilities.
It's about expanding your horizons and being open to opportunities that might not be immediately obvious.
Right.
Now, let's connect this back to Malaysia specifically.
Okay.
We've already mentioned the government's Myanmar initiative, which is a great resource for upskilling.
Yeah.
But what else is happening in Malaysia that's relevant to this conversation? I was reading about the Malaysia Digital Economy Corporation, or MDEC. They seem to be playing a really key role in promoting the digital economy and supporting tech startups.
MDEC is doing some fantastic work.
Yeah.
They're not just focusing on developing technical skills, they're also fostering a culture of innovation and entrepreneurship.
Okay.
And for a country like Malaysia, which is, aspiring to become a regional leader in the digital economy, that's incredibly important.
It sounds like they're creating an ecosystem where people can not only learn new skills, but also apply those skills in real-world settings, potentially even starting their own businesses.
Exactly, and that's something that I think is going to be increasingly important in the future of work. We're moving away from this model of lifetime employment with a single company towards a more fluid and dynamic career landscape where people are likely to have multiple jobs, potentially even multiple careers throughout their working lives.
That can be both exciting and daunting, right?
It is, but I think the key is to embrace that change and see it as an opportunity for growth and reinvention.
So for someone in Malaysia who might be feeling a bit apprehensive about all these changes,
Yeah. What would you say is the most important message to take away?
I would say don't panic. This is a time of great change, but it's also a time of great opportunity. If you're willing to be proactive, adaptable, and committed to lifelong learning, you'll be well positioned to not just survive, but thrive in this new world of work.
And remember, you don't have to do it alone.
Right.
There are resources and support systems available to help you navigate this transition.
That's a great point. There are organizations like MDEC, government initiatives like Myanmar, and a whole host of online resources and communities that can provide guidance and support.
We've talked a lot about the economic and technological forces that are shaping the future of work,
Yeah,
but there's also a human element to this equation.
absolutely.
One of the sources you provided, the World Green Economy Report, brought up this concept of a just transition.
Yeah.
Welcome back to the deep dive.
Yeah.
We were just starting to dig into this idea of a just transition.
And I think it's something that comes up a lot when we talk about, the green economy and the future of work.
Absolutely.
But I think it's worth exploring a bit more deeply what it actually means.
Yeah, I think it's a crucial aspect of this conversation because it highlights the importance of making sure that the benefits of, these technological and economic shifts are distributed fairly, right? It's about recognizing that, there will be disruptions. There will be, potential job displacement, and that we need to have systems in place to support workers through those transitions.
So it's not just about, celebrating all the exciting possibilities of AI and the green economy. It's about
Right.
making sure that everyone has the opportunity to participate.
Exactly. A just transition acknowledges that there will be, winners and losers in this process, and it aims to mitigate those negative impacts by, providing safety nets for workers, investing in reskilling and training programs, and creating pathways for people to move into new industries.
One of the things that struck me about the World Green Economy report was this emphasis on the need for a more inclusive and equitable approach to economic development.
Hmm.
It's not just about growing the economy, it's about making sure that growth benefits everyone,
Yeah.
not just a select few.
That's a fundamental principle of a just transition. It's about recognizing that a truly sustainable economy is one that is both environmentally sustainable and socially just. You
Right.
can't have one without the other.
And that requires kind of a shift in mindset, right? It's about moving away from this idea of a zero-sum game where one person's gain is another person's loss and embracing a more collaborative and cooperative approach.
Absolutely. It's about recognizing that, we're all in this together,
hmm
and that the success of one depends on the well-being of all.
One of the sources you shared mentioned this concept of a regenerative economy.
hmm
Can you talk a little bit about what that means and how it relates to this idea of a just transition?
Yeah, a regenerative economy goes beyond just sustainability.
Yeah.
It's about creating systems that are actively beneficial to both people and the planet.
hmm
Right. So it's about restoring and replenishing the resources we use rather than just, extracting and depleting them.
So it's about shifting from a model of taking and consuming to a model of giving back and regenerating.
Exactly. And that shift requires us to, think differently about how we design our products, how we manage our resources, how we value labor.
There was a really interesting example in one of the reports about a company that's using mushrooms to create sustainable packaging materials.
Wow.
So it's completely biodegradable and compostable, and it's actually helping to clean up agricultural waste in the process.
That's a fantastic example of, the kind of innovation that a regenerative economy can foster. It's about finding these creative solutions that address multiple challenges simultaneously.
It's about seeing those challenges as opportunities rather than roadblocks.
Exactly. And that's where I think, the human element comes in, right?
Yeah.
We need people who can think critically and creatively, who can collaborate and innovate, and who are passionate about, creating a better world.
Yeah. So what does all of this mean for someone listening who's maybe thinking, okay, this all sounds great in theory,
Yeah.
but what can I actually do? What are some practical steps that individuals can take to contribute to this idea of a just transition and a regenerative economy?
Well, I think first and foremost, educate yourself right. Learn about these concepts, explore the resources that are available, engage in conversations about these issues.
Mm.
The more people who understand the challenges and the opportunities, the better equipped we'll be to create solutions.
And it's not just about acquiring knowledge, it's also about applying that knowledge in your everyday life.
Absolutely. Support businesses that are aligned with your values, advocate for policies that promote sustainability and social justice,
Right.
make conscious choices about your consumption habits.
And don't underestimate the power of your voice and your actions. Even small changes, when multiplied by millions of people, can have a real ripple effect.
So in this deep dive, we've explored, the future of work, focusing on the impact of AI digitalization and the green economy.
Mm.
We've talked about, the challenges and the opportunities that these changes present, particularly for Malaysia, but with implications, I think, for everyone.
We've emphasized the need to be proactive, to embrace lifelong learning, and to develop, transferable skills that'll be valuable in this evolving landscape.
Right.
But it's important to remember that the future of work is not just about individual success. It's about creating a world that is both prosperous and just a world where everyone has the opportunity to thrive.
And that requires us to think differently, to embrace collaboration and innovation, and to work together to build a more sustainable and equitable future for all.
Well, this deep dive has hopefully provided you with, some insights and inspiration as you navigate your own career path and contribute to shaping the future of work. Remember, the future is not something that just happens to us. It's something we create together.
Thank you for joining us on this deep dive into the future of work. We hope you found it informative and thought-provoking, and we encourage you to continue exploring these ideas and to engage in conversations about how we can create a better future for ourselves and for generations to come.